How y'all doing, everybody? For this this one we'll be covering the Enchanted World's dragons. One of my favorite ones of this whole series growing up as a kid because, of course, dragons. Now, the cover here is very nice. Of course, if you're familiar with Norse mythology, you can understand what this is. This is Fafnir and being slain here. But we'll get to that probably in time. Okay, let's take a look. Well, first of all, as always, you got those first little drawings at first. You know, where it kind of shows almost like a cartoon a bit. Let's see. And it's not very well done. It's kind of very light. I don't know if it shows up to camera very well. But what it is, you see this cloud up there with an oriental dragon and a Chinese dragon, and you see it raining. And as it goes further, you know, you see it much close up right here. And of course, some of the artwork, like this one, is done by the fantasy artist Wayne Anderson, who of Flight of Dragons fame. So, yeah, you can see this one going by, and then let's see. As it goes, you know, content's right here, but the picture shows there's another one right behind it, right there. And you know, they don't always tell a complete story, or you know, but you know, the last page, you just see the dragon's tail going by, you know, like clouds in the sky. Let's see. Let's continue here. This picture really stands out here. No caption for this one, you know. But as I'll go on, here we go. Nice little drawing here. I'll read the section here. A perilous feasting place. The naturalists of Europe, speculating about dragons, wrote of a wonderful tree called the Parandius, which grew in India. The tree's sweet fruit grew flocks of doves. Dragons, which had a particular fondness for the taste of doves, lurked nearby, but not too near, for even the shadow of the tree was poison to him. When doves left the tree's protected embrace, however, they were likely to fall victim to the serpent's swift strikes. And this is actually true. Many naturalists in the time tried to speculate on dragons and how they are and how they're shaped and all that. This one again, Wayne Anderson again. Again, if you're never familiar with Norse mythology, you can see what's going on here. You see a great tree with some animals around it. You know, birds understand, but the goat. But also on the bottom here, you see this dragon right here, and there's 3 women in the crest here, weaving down here, and you got a squirrel. And let me position this, and I'll read the little section right on top here. There we go. Get confused with dragon. That should have. Destroyer of the roots of the world. According to Norse beliefs, an immense unseen tree called Yggdrasil stretched from the vault of heavens to the depths of hell. A dragon named Nidhogg gnawed perpetually at the roots, seeking to destroy the order of creation, but the order had a battalion of defenders. 3 godlike beings called Norms sat calmly near the dragon at the roots, spinning the threads of mortal fate. Stags browse at the trees and water the earth with the dew from their antlers. A goat that chewed the tree's bark provided mead as milk for the mortal heroes who would rid the world of the dragon race. Of the birds that perched in Yggdrasil's branches, the greatest was the eagle, a steadfast dragon enemy that sang forever, creation and destruction. Sorry if I don't read too well, but yeah, you get the idea here. Now, this first chapter of the book kind of deals with dragons in relationship to the gods, you know, in mythology. And this one, of course, is nude painting of a couple guys. Again, if you're familiar with Norse mythology, this should be something called the Midgard serpent. The caption reads, "Using a chain baited with the head of an ox, the Norse god Thor hauled the Midgard serpent from the sea, while the father god Odin watched from on high. Thor raised his hammer to kill the beast, but the chain snapped and the dragon escaped." Nice little 2-parter here. So what's this? Well, many of you fans of Final Fantasy and Dungeons & Dragons will be familiar with the dragon called Tiamat. Well, that goes on to ancient Babylonian myth, as a quote, caption on the bottom reads. Let me position this here. Babylonian priests wrote that before light separated from darkness and time began, the god Marduke slew his dragon forebear Tiamat, enemy of order. In the depths of the void, Marduke pursued and caught Tiamat, and he split her great body asunder. Nice illustration there. Going on, some Egyptian. See, right, winged serpent here, with the god Ra and Seth. The caption reads on the top here: across the Egyptian skies each day sailed the sun god Ra, his bark a burnished throne. The chance of his hyena-faced guard Seth held off the dragon Apep, who ruled over darkness and sought to devour the god of light. So many of you, Egyptian mythology fans would probably get that reference. But dragons even go far as India. And the caption reads as, a palate worthy of a god. All across the ancient world, people spoke of dragons when they spoke the first things, and India was no exception. Holy men of that land said that the world was supported by Sesha, the 11-headed serpentine creature, whose title was Ananta, meaning the Endless One. Far from being an agent of disorder, as most dragons were, Ananta served Vishnu, the Lord of the universe, offering its long back as a couch when the god chose to sleep. Oh, sorry about the glare here, I'm reading here. But yes, 11-headed serpent. But let's see, keep going here. This wonderful picture, Arthur Rackham, if you're familiar with that artist. I sure am. Mother had a book on his stuff. And on the caption, it reads as follows. Let me position the book. In Greece, poets told this tale. At the end of the world lay an island called the Gardens of Ocean, and on this land grew a tree that bore golden apples. Because a bite of the apple's flesh would give a mortal the knowledge rightfully possessed by immortals, the gods had set the never-sleeping dragon Ladon to guard the tree. A mortal king sent the hero Hercules to find and steal the golden apples. Some storytellers said that the hero slew the many-headed monster and stole a branch of the tree, but others said that no mortal, not even a hero, could survive an encounter with Ladon. Instead, they claim Hercules persuaded the god Atlas, on whose shoulders rested the heavens, to travel to enchanted gardens and pluck the magical fruit. While Atlas was away on his mission, Hercules assumed the god's role. The mortal stood on the mountain top and held up the sky until its proper pillar returned to the apples. With the apples. Hey, gotta do what you gotta do. This one, okay, interesting. Guy pouring a something. I always thought when I was a kid that he just had a weirdly shaped sword, with a handle you just kind of held like a cup. But actually he's pouring something on top of the dragon here. And an enchantress shifting of the odds. A young warrior named Jason, son of the king of Thessaly, outwitted a dragon once and retrieved a treasure it guarded. His feat happened this way. At the urging of his uncle, Jason embarked on a quest to obtain the fleece of the fabulous golden ram that had been sacrificed years before in the kingdom of Colchis and the shores of the Black Sea. The fleece was guarded by a dragon that never slept. Jason sailed to Colchis with a company of the heroes of Greece, Hercules, Theseus, and Orpheus among them. When the men arrived, they found a Colchian king, Aeetes, reluctant to give up his treasure. He consented only on the term that Jason sowed a collection of dragon's teeth in the earth. As the king knew well, those teeth would spring from the ground as warriors to fall upon Jason. But the king's plans were foiled by his daughter Medea, a sorceress of great power. She desired Jason, and he promised her marriage in exchange for her aid. This she gave. When Jason sowed the teeth to the ground, they did indeed spring up as fierce warriors, but Jason threw Medea's magic stone among them, and they fell upon one another, not on him. After the slaughter, he approached the guardian dragon, armed with a charmed distillation that irresistibly induced sleep. The beast slumbered. He made off with the fleece. Then, taking Medea along, he returned to Thessaly in triumph. Okay, some stories kind of ended that a bit differently. Well, no. Okay, I'm thinking of of the Minotaur, where the woman of that was left on the island. The jerk. Anyway, moving on. Here we go. This nice little picture here, again from Greece, and caption below. Let me see if I can get a good view of that. Let's see. Another hero of Greece was Cadmus, who braved the dragon's jaws to slay the beast with a spear. In the wilderness, where the dragon had held sway, Cadmus built the mighty city of Thebes. Fascinating. Got a constellation map here, and he texts from above. Sorry, my thumb is. Far into the sky, the hero Cadmus and his fellows flung a dragon. It became the constellation Draco, coiled forever around the North Star. The stars, Etenin and Alwade, are the watchful creature's eyes. These stars never these stars never set. Amazing all the stories they came up with the constellations of these. Now we got a small side section here from the main text. These next few pages are from Wayne Anderson again, and I always found this picture funny. You see this many-headed dragon, so, so many heads, but you even with feet are walking on top of them. As you can see. I'll read this section here. On the side here, a field guide to dragons. Few human beings cared to discover more about dragons and how to avoid them, or failing that, kill them. Yet humankind was always curious, and dragons became a subject of scholars. Studying them was a daunting task, for the nature of dragons was confusing. The creatures seemed to defy sensible cataloging, as though each dragon were a separate species. Some were in fact unique. For example, hundred-headed Typhon, with its earthquake tread, was a monstrous rebuke to the idea that nature had an organization. But later, lesser dragons were somewhat more consistent in behavior and appearance, and there also arose schemes for classifying them. In the West, dragons were described by body type in the overleaf and defined by habitat. In China, however, they were classified according to the purpose and function. So let's see what they're referring to here. The different types of dragons here. So let's see. You got an array of classical forms. I'm going to start on this page right here, starting from the top. The Amphitheater, a legless winged serpent. The amphitheater could be found along the banks of the Nile and in Arabia, where it guarded frankincense-bearing trees and threatened all who would harvest the precious resin. And for many of you fantasy types, particular role-playing games, you're familiar with this type called the Wyvern. Feared for its ferociousness and for the pestilence it brought in northern Europe, Greece, and Ethiopia, the Wyvern had a coiling trunk that bore a pair of eagle's legs, which were trunk beneath its wings. The name derived from the Saxon word wyvir, or serpent. Going on the next page here, starting from the bottom, let me position this so the glare is not so bad. It's down here. The Lindworm. Falling between the bird-like wyvern and snake-like wyveri, the lindworm had a serpent body with one pair of legs. It was flightless. The Italian traveler Marco Polo reports seeing some lindworms while crossing the steppes of Central Asia. And on the far here, just a flat, complete serpent. And it talks about above the wyveri. The legless and wingless wyveri would have seemed a mere serpent, albeit an immensely powerful one, except for the massive dragon head, horned and bearded. Wyveries like to live in forests and wells, anywhere near water. And of course, what we like to think of dragons is the perfect heraldic dragon. 4 limbs, wings on the back, that sort of classic look. The most widespread and formidable of its kind, the heraldic dragon had massive fangs, 4 clawed legs, and a ridge of sharp spines that stretched from the spike nose to the barbs of its stinging tail. And here we got let's see, diversity of habitats. We'll start with this one with the caption right here. Cave dwellers. Whenever caves existed, there were likely to be dragons. Those whose serpent nature found comfort in darkness. Comfort in dank, cold darkness. That makes more sense. Such lairs were private and easily guarded, thus suited to these solitary, suspicious beasts. Caves close to towns were particularly desirable because they were convenient to food. On the other side here, see dragons down below is a wyvern, an amphitheater on top, and a heraldic dragon. Mountain predators, craggy or, sorry, let me position this a little bit better. Gosh, again, sorry for all the glare here, but I'll read the caption while I hold the picture. There we go. Mountain predators. Craggy or cave-riddled mountains provided impregnable areas for keen-eyed winged dragons. These beasts, like falcons, could spy their prey from on high, rocket down for their kill, and return to their dens to feed unmolested. Among the most dangerous of such mountain dwellers was a fire-breathing, tatzelworm, which fed upon the stray cattle and lost children of Alpine Switzerland and Austria. What was it like, this artwork here? Yes, again, more diversity here. I'll start with this one here. Boy, how do I... just no way. That's probably the best I can do here. Aquatic denizens. Primal elements, water, sheltered dragons. Who were the primal beasts? They inhabited seas and rivers and lakes all over the world. Such places offer boat traffic and fish to prey on. But more than that, they provided a watery cloak that allowed dragons to approach river towns and and seaports undetected. Now, over here, you see a nice serpent going around this very stale water. Again, that's about the best I can do. Swamp beasts. Marshes, like caves, made havens for dragons. The English called swamp dragons knuckers, and the dragons retreat, reputed to be bottomless, were knucker holes. These were small, deep pits that were cold in summer, never frozen in winter, and they gave off an eerie vapor. Let's see, moving on. Here we go to the Asian dragons. We'll start with the very top here. Up in the clouds, celestial guardians. Celestial dragons of China protected the heavens, supporting the mansions of the gods and shielding them from decay. Only these dragons and their earthly likeness on the imperial regalia had 5 claws. Other dragons had only 3 or 4. Down the bottom here, treasure keepers. Subterranean dragons had Subterranean dragons had charge of all precious jewels and metals buried in the earth. Each of these dragons bore an enormous pearl that was reputed to multiply whenever it touched. The pearl symbolized another hidden treasure, wisdom. Up on the top here, this blue one up in the sky, weather makers. Floating across the sky, changeable blue in color. Spiritual dragons govern the wind, clouds, and rain, on which, sorry, I'm fighting the glare here. Clouds of rain on which life has always depended. The Chinese took care to appease them, for if these weather workers grew angry or neglectful, the result was certain disaster. On the bottom here, we got the river lords. Each dragon determined the course of rivers, regulated their flow, and maintained their banks. Every river in China had its own earth dragon king, who held sway over the waters from a palace far beneath the surface. Yep. Now, in the next chapter here, we deal with the more Asian kind of dragons. Again, no caption here, but you see a, possibly a weather maker on top, and you got some of the dragons sleeping on there. Of course, the stories, give a good account on what all involves as far as Asian dragons go. Queller of the Great Deluge. I won't read this one. I'm going to skip this one, but it's a wonderful picture of a woman riding a dragon. Then this next one, you don't see much, but it's just a waterway. But in the text itself, it talks about the life cycle of a Chinese dragon. And here's one hatching from its egg, and look on the bottom, it's coming out like this. But while I put it right here, I'll read the caption on top. The eggs of China's dragons lay near riverbanks for 1,000 years. Their cracking brought furious storms, and as wind and rain raged, small snakes emerged. They grew rapidly into wingless dragons that took to the air by aid of magical crests on their foreheads. Let's moving on. Okay, I always found this one as weird as a kid. But as I position this, let me read. Some scholars held that dragons developed from mere water snakes, which, after 5 centuries of growth, assumed a primary dragon form, a serpent with a carp's head. I read from another book I have about dragons that the Asian dragons that we know of, it's kind of like a chimera between a head of a camel, sea coral horns on its head, fish scales all over its body, and wings of claws of an eagle. Case in point. But going to this page right here, see a dragon coming up away. Text at the bottom. The serpentine dragon required a millennia of growth to achieve a more dragon-like appearance. 4-clawed feet and an elongated face surrounded by a shaggy beard and a flying mane of hair. This was its second form of being. And on the bottom, going back to this one again, the caption up top says, after 500 years more, the marks of the dragon's 3rd stage of existence appeared. Gnarled antler-like horns, mortals prized these as a cure for madness. And this wonderful picture over here, I'll read the caption at the bottom. A dragon reached full maturity after 3,000 years when it acquired branch-like arcs of wings that carry it through the highest reaches in the heavens. Of course, maybe it's talking about these as wings, but, you know. You don't see too much Asian dragons with wings as we know it. This one right here. Dragon, chained to a great pillar. There's apparently a ruler on the bottom, and a servant. Shaking the foundations, let me reposition that. Shaking the foundations of the palace of the Dragon King, a 1,000-foot-long serpent bent on vengeance burst the chains that bore him and flew to freedom. Probably get more into text about the story of that. And this, for the longest time, I couldn't never noticed when I was a kid. I didn't notice a dragon up here until a long time later. Yeah, believe it or not, there is a dragon floating above with these of these two monks. Let's see. Try to position here. Sorry, my camera's not that great as far as the stand goes. The caption reads, to propitiate the dragons that were masters of the winds and rain, the Chinese made offerings of lotus flower and food. Gotta appease the spirits and all that. Let's see. Reclaiming an emperor's gift. I won't read this one here. This one goes to Japan. I can't read everything here. I want to encourage you guys to get these so you can explore for yourselves. This one right here is a nice one. Capture goes, amid the furies of gales at sea, China's sailors sometimes saw the stormbringers, dragons that leaped among the waves and through the ocean mist and roiled the waters in their sport. Now, next page here. Again, I won't read this one, but I'll show the illustrations. Again, see a Japanese woman, going around. I never read this. I can't remember what this one was. A maid who braved the deep. But again, this takes place in Japan. Oh, I think I remember this one. This is where she had to collect a statue that was taken. And in order to do that, she had to go into the water and face the dragon who guarded it. See, here she is in the water. There's the statue she needs to get. And of course, here she is. She's found the statue, handing it back to him. I don't know if she slayed the dragon yet, but maybe I shouldn't read this one because I might spoil it. Maybe she just seduced him or something. The Serpent Ascendant. Nice little woodcut drawing here. Well, either woodcut or acid etched, But I always love drawings like this, like Gustav Dori and all them. I think this talks about more of the traditional dragons that we were aware of and how they terrorize towns. Nice little cool picture right here. Winged torch of Europe's towns. In the centuries of their ascendancy, dragons occasionally ravaged Europe's towns with flame. One marvelous clear sunny day, an account from Germany begins. The people of Sanctogoran, a small town of the Rhine, saw soaring above them a mighty winged dragon. Its tails lashed the sky, and when the beast disappeared, fire sprang up spontaneously over town. Nothing could quench the crackles of the flame. The dragon was the town's undoing, because the disaster like this, the belief grew that dragons flying in daylight signified great and fearful fires to follow. Alright, moving on. This is a neat one. A serpent coming out of the well here. Caption above, the coming of a dragon could be silent and secret. In England once, a youth tossed a worm into a village well. The creature grew in the darkness until it became a monster, which proceeded to terrorize the district of Lambton for 7 long years. The Lambton worm. There we go. That was a neat one. Now this one where dragons dwelled. Well, I always like this one because it shows a map and of Europe there, and there's little dragons here and there, and they sort of correlate to this dragon sighting right here. I won't read all of it, but I'll read this. From pre-Christian times, sorry, let me get this. Until the late 17th century, dragons roamed Europe, observed by knight-errants, historians, and naturalists. Some of the sightings shown on this map are listed on the right. But a lot of the things they talked about, you look on the border here, sort of a monster going after the maiden. I always like the design of these dragons here up in the sky, with lightning in the background. Here. Yeah, there we go. Moving up, a dragon attacking sheep, dragon on top of a horde, one dragon that seems to have a tied maiden for sacrifice or what have you. Can't angle this right because I can't lift this up with this stand, but there's a dragon going around the town, you know, terrorizing it. And the famous a knight and a dragon up here, a sleeping dragon, looks like an infantry, you know, coiled up here. We got a dragon up against a well, and a dragon going up against a town. Wonderful drawing here. I think this might be Wayne Anderson. No, it's not. I don't think it's Wayne Anderson. It's gonna be something else. You could always check the back of this. But if you're curious, I'll tell you if you want to know. But moving on. Of Maidens and Dragons. You know, we all know the story. I'll skip this part, but I'll go to here. These are neat drawings here. Safe in a scented palace hidden in Kiev, the Russian sorceress Marina kept a dragon for a companion and serpents for pets. It was her wont to seduce brave dragon slayers and change them into harmless magpies or pigs or oxen. Marina met her end when a hero seduced her in turn, and in the absence of her guards, beheaded her. And we got this one right here. In Serbia lived a fairy so powerful that she could assume to form a golden bird if she wished. She imprisoned a dragon in her palace dungeons, but her mortal husband unknowingly released the beast. It caught her in the talons and carried her to its lair, and many months passed before her husband freed her and slew her captor. I always like this one right here. This is just a wonderful design dragon right here. Riding high above the night stars, the seductive French spirit called Les Succubes guided her dragon across the countryside, always searching for reckless and amorous young adventurers. They became her lovers and victims. The kiss of the succubi was sweet, but it drained the life strength of mortal men. And of course, you know, the succubus. And this is a more classical dragon and maiden here. Once on the coast of Germany, a king's daughter was captured by a sea dragon. She kept herself from harm by charming the beast to sleep until her rescuers arrived. It was said that the greatest stargazer in the world found her, the greatest thief in the world stole her away, and the greatest hunter in the world slew the dragon for her. we always heard various stories of that. Classic ones. Now this one's one of those paintings that showed multiple events in one scene. Trapped in the skin of a dragon by enchantment, Margareta Bamber was rescued when her brother returned from abroad. He restored her to mortal form with a kiss, then covered her with his cloak and rode to the castle to take revenge on her enchanter. Probably more, you know, the kiss probably inspired by more Jaime and Cersei Lannister. Here we go. Very odd looking dragon. You know, I see a red jewel over here, but you figure go in place right here. I'll read this one. Bejeweled Haunters of the Alps. Let me position that's where that should probably do it. In the Alpine region of France and the neighboring Swiss cantons lived a dragon called Valkyrie, a name derived from the Latin vipera or viper. The Valkyrie was a magnificent creature, as bejeweled as a fabulous treasure it was said to guard. Its scales sparkled like diamonds. It bore a crown of pearls, and in the center of its forehead was a blood-red carbuncle that served as a single eye. The stone was so luminous that the dragon appeared to be wreathed in fire when it flew, and for centuries, French parents told their children that shooting stars marked the Valkyrie speeding across the night skies. One night each year, the creature became vulnerable. It left its lair, which might be ruins of the chateau or abbey, or a mountain grotto, or fissure of the rocks of the region, and flew to lakes and streams to bathe and drink. When it entered the water, it removed a precious red carbuncle and placed the stone on the ground. In this blinded state, the Valkyrie drank its fill. There would seem to have been opportunity in this, and peasants of the region were fond of saying that anyone brave enough to approach the beast and steal the stone would be rich as a king, while the Valkyrie, deprived of sight forever, would languish and die. But this was wishful thinking, for the fiery dragon thrived for centuries, and no tale survived of peasants profiting from the treasure. Or simply because it didn't exist. Yes, this one, kind of weird. I always thought it was a dog there, not much of a dragon. But the serpent and the cross. In the face of Christianity, dragon power began to wane, or so the Christian legend said. They told, for instance, of Margaret, an early believer who lived in Antioch. The governor of the city, a pagan named Olibus, fell in love with the young woman, but she repulsed all his advances, even though he had her cast in prison for the refusals. A dragon threatened her in her prison cell, according to the legends, but fled when she held as weapon a wooden cross up before its eyes. Other versions of the saint's tale claim that the dragon actually swallowed the woman, and that the cross she bore grew inside it until the beast was split asunder. Margaret stepped safely from its belly, and because of this deliverance, she became the patron saint of childbirth. Odd story. Usually saint stories are. Again, for D&D fans, this will sound familiar to Tarrasque. Usually in D&D, it's usually a huge Godzilla-like monster that's invincible to kill, probably toughest monsters in all Dungeons & Dragons. But it actually derived from this. Rapacious and cunning, the lion-headed Tarrasque sought horror to the farms of Provence. No animal was safe from the appetite till a young saint named Martha challenged it with the power of her faith. And these beautiful set of pictures is coincide with a story on the side, Sojourn in a Watery Realm, about a French woman who was taken in by a dragon to take care of its young in an underwater, with these jewels and everything. And after she took care of its young, she was let go, but she was able to see the dragon later on. And he tried to figure out which eye was able to see her. One eye she couldn't see him, the other eye she could, so she plucked out the eye that she could see him with. That's the synopsis of the story. Cruel as that is. The rise of the dragon slayer. No caption here, but it's a classic medieval picture, dragon on her on the bottom, being slain by a knight in armor. Let's see what we got here. Knight, headed dragon, embracing a maiden. St. George, valorous and pure of heart, slew a dragon to rescue a princess of Libya. His reward, say some legends, was the hand of a maiden that he has saved. Another dragon story. Desperate combat of Lancelot. Lancelot of King Arthur's court once slew a dragon, thereby set great events in motion. Here is the tale. In a tomb in a part of France where King Pelles ruled, a dragon made its home. Each night it ventured out to maim and slaughter. When Lancelot reached that kingdom on his travels, the people begged for his aid. The gallant Lancelot went to the tomb and opened it. The dragon surged out upon him, but he slew the beast. Inscribed upon the tomb were the words, "Here shall come a leopard of king's blood, and he shall slay the serpent. And this leopard shall engender a lion in this foreign country, which lion shall surpass all other knights." King Pelles knew of the inscription. He had a daughter named Elaine, and he believed that if Lancelot lay with her, she would bear the child who would become the knight of the prophecy. But Lancelot loved Arthur's Queen Guinevere, and would not lie with another lady. So by means of enchantment, Pelles gave Elaine the form of Guinevere. She invited Lancelot to her chamber in the evening, and he went willingly. 9 months later, Elaine bore Galahad, who, true to the foretelling, became the greatest warrior of all Christendom. The Terror of Kiev. Again, I won't read this story right here, but a three-headed dragon with multiple tails in Russia. Very interesting to read. But again, relating to, spoiler warning, the dragon was slain. I always found it neat that, a guy with multiple whips that held it, that For you Castlevania fans, this might seem familiar. Death of the Dragon on High. For those of you who have Clash of Titans, may be familiar with this one. I won't read the story here, but this is Perseus and the beast that he slew in order to save Andromeda. This one right here, kind of hard to picture. A bunch of knights and soldiers out against griffins, boars, and dragons. It was said of Alexander the Great that he fought many dragons as he swept across the world. Advancing into India, his army was beset by boars, griffins, and monstrous serpents. All were vanquished, like every human enemy who tried to thwart his drive for empire. You usually don't hear that in histories, but, you know, again, such mystical stories. From more old-fashioned texts, a prophet's daring ploy. In centuries past, people loved to tell the tale of the Hebrew prophet Daniel and how he bested a dragon. Although he was of a different religion, Daniel was once trusted confidant of Astyages, king of Babylon. To Daniel's dismay, the people of Babylon, in their ignorance, worshiped a dragon at the time. To put an end to this evil idolatry, Daniel told Astyages that he would slay the sacred dragon without the aid of sword or staff. And so he did. Daniel boiled pitch, fat, and hair together and shaped them into solid balls. These were forced down the dragon's throat. The balls exploded in the heated beast's belly, and the dragon burst on the spot. He put a bomb in the dragon and it went boom. Another Arthur Rackham picture. You got a man wiping his lips, sword in hand, and a dragon behind him. Few knew the profound power of dragon's blood, but the hero Sigurd discovered the secret. The merest taste endowed a man with knowledge of ancient things of the earth. Yep, I remember that. I'm reading about that story. You got this one, dragon slain on top of a treasure hoard. Let me position this so I get a good view of the main part. I'll read the caption. All over the world, the dragons perished by sword and spear as mortals advanced, and the powers of the primordial beasts became no more than dim remembrance. Yeah, nice one. Of course, it continues on in the next page. That's how big the picture is. Ancient Tales of Persian Kings. I won't read this one here because I'm kind of running out of room on my camera here, but see a person, you know, stabbing a dragon right here. These are different stories, so I guess I'll read like this one right here, just random. Gustaf's son, Isfadiyar, became a dragon while journeying east to rescue his sister from an invading warlord. The crafty prince built a wooden carriage studded with sharp hooks and sword blades. Then, concealed within, Isfadiyar fearlessly drove the box-like contraption, horses and all, straight to the maw of the dragon. The bristling carriage stuck there, choking and lacerating the throat of the beast, which retreated to free itself. Isfadiyar then sprang from the cart, drew his sword, and split open the dragon's head. Interesting. Here we got a guy and horse being swallowed dragon. I'll read this one. Like the powerful Gustaf, Isfadiyar's son, Shahadazar, met his dragon atop a mountain. And like Isfadiyar, he entered his jaws, but unlike his father, Ardashir never emerged. Ardashir had been riding in the Zagros mountains when the beast surprised him from behind. Before he could flee, horse and rider were snapped up in a single bite. And Ardashir, who did not seek to challenge the dragon, became the only man in his line to die by one. So I guess it's a series of stories of dragon slayers by a man and his family, you know, descendants. You don't hear much about Persian dragons, and here's a few stories about them. Rescued a great, glorious. Well, there you have it, folks. That's the end of it, and you know, credits behind. There you go. That is Dragons of the Enchanted World, one of my favorite ones growing up. And I hope you get yourself a copy and enjoy it too. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day.